S1, 2. You're very welcome.
Doing good, doing good.
I guess so. What happened to the big clock? It fell? It's broken? You need to put a little clock up there. You need to have a clock of some kind up there. Well, I guess.
Digital.
Show 6 o'clock. Great. With that, we will start our agenda for our Selma City Council and Planning Commission special joint meeting at September 14th, 2023 at 6:01 p.m. in the Selma City Council chambers at 1710 Tucker Street in Selma, California. The teleconference phone number is 301-715-8592 and the webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. When on the phone, if you wish to address the council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise your hand. We'll select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Here.
Mayor Robertson,
Here.
Planning Commissioner Franco.
Here.
Planning Commissioner Juarez. Here. Planning Commissioner Sandu. Here. Vice Chair Singh,
Here.
Chairperson Salas.
Here.
Okay, potential conflicts of interest. Any council member or planning commission member has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Agenda changes or deletions to better accommodate members of the public or inconvenience in the order of presentation. Items on the agenda may not be presented or acted upon in the order listed. Additions to the agenda may be added only pursuant to California Government Code, Section 54954.2b. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item on the special meeting agenda over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will take place on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes and direct their comments to the city council or the planning commission. Do we have anybody who'd like to say anything at this time? Do we have anybody online or on the phone who'd like to say anything? With that, we will bring the matter back and conclude oral communications and move on to our regular business item, which is the continued consideration of approval to terminate CalPERS health contract agreement to participate in the Public Employee Medical and Hospital Care Act.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This item is a continuation, as the mayor stated, of the previous item, which was considered at the last city council meeting, in which staff's recommendation was to terminate the city's contract with CalPERS in order to allow us to explore better healthcare options for both our current employees and retirees.
Thank you for that. So we'll bring the matter back to council. Does council have any items they would like to discuss before we open the matter up to the public? Do we have our HR director here who is going to talk about this?
HR manager Janie Venegas is here. Is there anything specific that you'd like to ask her?
I don't have anything. If there's just asking if there's any additional information that
No
Ms.
additional
Venegas-
information.
Okay. With that, we'll bring the matter back to the council. Does anybody have any input on this matter of terminating the CalPERS contract for the health insurance at this time before we move the matter to a vote?
Just a clarification, there's no other members of or employees that have come up to give a presentation like we did for the fire?
You mean in terms of public comment? I'm not sure if there's anybody out there that would like to give public comment. Sure. I don't think that was the mayor's question, but yeah, we're not at that.
Right, I
portion.
was asking like if PD brought, their person that's with the SPOA or another group like from Public Works, I'm just asking to see if there was any more employee that received any type of input to state whether they were for it, not for it. That's what I was looking for.
That was communicated directly to staff prior to the meeting? Because we cannot, so we can't tell the union members to show up in favor or in opposition to any specific item. However, I do see some in the audience. I don't know if they plan to speak or not, but we did not receive any additional opposition.
Okay.
Okay. I know I was someone who wanted to take a little more time on this because it's a pretty big step, terminating the CalPERS health plan. And I went back and did some research on it, and it does look like everything's still going up. Or the health plans are going up. But what was interesting is I looked at a study from an insurance practitioner in California, a major writer of health insurance, and they were saying that it's not the medical provider that's doing the price increasing. That's some of it, but what's increasing it is utilization increases and new medical procedures and technology, including pharmacy. All these, these advancements that everybody's seeing, that we're all seeing, they come with a cost. And then there's medical cost shifting. So as we're seeing, with these drugs, these pharmaceuticals that are going to be lower priced on a particular plan, the costs are just going to get shifted. The pharmaceutical companies are just going to move it over to other plans. So I think that has some insurance companies, they are uneasy about that. So the one thing I did hear was that city plans on looking into a self-funded option. And I have looked at that, and it looks like that requires some pretty substantial reserves. So that's important, especially if the city is putting its money in its assets and resources in other areas, that the city does have enough for those reserves if it does go in the direction of a self-funded plan. And the concern I had was just to think about a little more, that if you get out of CalPERS, you can't go back for 5 years, and the city doesn't have another plan that they're going to get into right now. So there's just more risk involved. And there are perfectly good reasons given for getting out of it in terms of cost, in terms of going into other plans. I just looked at it from a risk reward standpoint. So with that, is there, if no one else has anything to say, is there a motion for this item to approve?
Public opinion? Public.
Oh, I did call. Okay, you got it. We'll bring the matter back to public. Come on up. Anyone who would like to discuss this matter, please. This is your opportunity.
Hi, Teresa Salas, 1701 Dinuba Avenue. I'm a retiree from the city of Selma. I worked for the city for 20 years. At the last council meeting, only one of the city's MOU groups came forward in favor of this change, even though all the groups were notified, but the retirees were never notified. When the item was continued, I asked Ms. Venegas to please notify the other retirees, and she said that she would. In speaking to those present tonight, none were notified. There is no guarantee that our insurance premiums will go down and stay down. And if they do go up, we can't return to CalPERS for 5 years. If the premiums go up, the present employees at least have raises to help them. They can negotiate with administration to make it manageable. You said that the monthly service fees stayed the same at around $600 per month. We have no idea what the broker fees could be. They could even be more than the $600 that we are currently paying to CalPERS. I also asked about the fact that the city currently pays a portion of our premium. For 2023, it's $151, and that increases annually. I asked Ms. Venegas if that would continue, and she was unable to give me any answer. She did say that the city would have no obligation to do so, as that only applies as long as we belong to CalPERS health insurance. She talked about MOU requirements for some groups, such as fire, that are included in their employment MOUs. There are no provisions for miscellaneous employees. So even if the premiums go down, if they are more than what I am currently paying without the city's contribution, I will almost certainly have an increase to what I pay. And we don't have any recourse. We're retired. We're on fixed incomes. We're at the stage in our lives where medical insurance is a necessity. We have our established doctors, and there are no guarantees that we will be able to continue with them. Had I not been at the last meeting, this item would have probably gone through and the retirees would have learned about it in a letter after the fact. I gave 20 years to the city, and others here gave even more. I find it disrespectful that you could propose such a big change in such a short amount of time and not notify us. I'm against this change at this time. You have no answers for us, only maybes. I need more answers and more time to be able to make an informed choice. I realize that you've hired capable employees to do their jobs, and Mrs. Venegas has worked for other agencies for years, but she has only been here for 6 months. And she herself said that she does not take the city insurance, so this will not even affect her. What's the big hurry? I have questions, and I haven't received any answers yet.
Okay. Oh, I lost my notes here. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Lois Hall. I grew up here, raised my family here, and lived in Selma for about 60 years. I retired in 2009 after 24 years with the city in administration with a final position of assistant city manager. During all of those years, I was heavily involved with benefits administration, negotiations, and so much more. I'm addressing you tonight regarding the procedures your staff is utilizing to change the health benefits to current employees, retirees, and perhaps some of you. My years of experience taught me that changing insurance plans is a lengthy and complicated process. However, the staff report says, and I quote, "After exiting CalPERS Health, staff will pursue fully funded or self-funded options," end quote. If this is truly the plan and the staff will only begin looking into alternatives now in mid-September for an effective date of January 1st, they are asking for complete chaos. My gut tells me, however, that plans are well underway considering their association with a Southern California insurance broker. Secondly, the report says that the employees have been notified of the proposed changes in a meeting facilitated by said broker. As you know, being notified and negotiating in good faith are two very different things. How can employees agree to anything when the plans, coverage, costs, provider list, etc., if they have not been provided to them? My suggestion is that you wait to cancel the CalPERS contract at this time and begin the process of exploring insurance alternatives early next year with valuable input from employee representatives as well as covered retirees. As you know, we retirees, and tonight there's probably 18 to 20 of us who have come. We found out what was happening this week. And had you passed the resolution at your previous meeting, we only would have been informed when it was a done deal. My fellow retirees, those here and those who were unable to make it, devoted hundreds of years to the betterment of this city. So frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we deserve better. Thank you.
Myron Dick, and I worked here for almost 32 years. When we went to the PERS program, we came from a self-funded because we couldn't find brokers or other ways of funding it. The issue of going to PERS was a funding issue because everything that the city explored and they searched for, as Lois said, a long time, there was nothing that was better. And a decision was made at that time that it was in the best interest of the city and the employees to go to PERS because it offered us the opportunity of falling under similar to a group insurance policy with CalPERS. How many thousands are in CalPERS? I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you there's a lot across the state. And so it gives the opportunity for it to be a group policy. When we come back and do a small policy that just includes the city, just like anything else, when you buy in bulk, you get a cheaper rate. I don't think that you're going to find a cheaper rate. And as others have said, I don't know that you're going to find plans that are similar to what the employees have, or the retirees have, or anybody else has for the same money. So I think you need to have done this before September 14th, because you have to be out by the 18th. And at the very least, I would think that it would be a better decision to explore it and have the time to do a good job of researching it before we get to having to pull out at the last minute. This looks like a knee-jerk reaction, figuring out that we need to get out by the 18th instead of being well prepared and having a good plan in place. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Roseanne Galvan. I was here 22 plus years with the city. And I was very concerned. We just found out about all of this. And one thing that I remembered then the a couple other former employees communicated was that years ago, we looked into other plans. We're not a real large employee group, and we were not insurable. We had too many employees that had major health issues, and there was no one that would take us. And so it was wonderful to be able to get into CalPERS and have some stability with our healthcare. And so I'm just very concerned that we'll be able to have the same coverage and all the benefits that we do right now. So I would hope you would think long and hard, maybe even do an RFP. You know, as one broker, is it better to do an RFP and see what brokers are out there and look into it in a little more depth? You know, it would make much more sense to look over this in 6 to 8 months, and then maybe a year from now, if it was best for the city, then do it. But to do it a couple of weeks and have a month to put this into place, that just isn't logical. Think about it logically. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I would just hope you'd really reconsider your decision to pull out of CalPERS. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Mike Kirshner, got retired just over a year ago, 27 and a half years here. My biggest concern is our doctor, being able to guarantee I can see the same doctor. It took my wife and I almost 3 or 4 months just to get to our doctor. When you get a new doctor, they're not seeing you right away. And so I'm all for saving money, all for better benefits. I'm just worried that if for some reason, without knowing the plans, can we keep our same doctor? I know some doctors aren't even accepting new plans. So that's my biggest concern, is just a timeline. But if you can save us money, I'm all for that. But thank you.
Good evening, Mike Kane, 30 years with the City of Selma, retired fire chief. I'm echoing what everybody else said. My concern is the quickness of it. Some of us, as Roseanne said, aren't insurable. Some of us have long-term medical issues. My wife sees a specialist in San Francisco for cancer. And changing insurance is just not an option for us. People won't take her. So if you move forward in this quick manner, we're kind of left in the dust. Then we got to go find somebody that will take us. And we have to have a budget that works for us. CalPERS does that for us. We've been with the same insurance with CalPERS since I retired. And I tell you, it just frightens me that all of a sudden one day I'm going to get a letter that says, you're out. And then we're scrambling. So I agree. We need to go to RFP. We need to look at the big picture. We need to look at this so that your employees and your retirees can help you plan for the change. We understand everybody wants to save money, but I would rather see us work together over the next year, year and a half, and come up with a plan that is sustainable for you and sustainable for us, that we can all work through, rather than just, here we go, now we'll figure it out. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Robert Weaver. I've worked for the city for 28 years as a public works director. I also am a Vietnam veteran, 3 tours of duty. I served my country. I served the city of Selma. I'm not going to say that the World War II generation is not America's best generation, but they were. But one thing I want to say is this group behind me, they served the city with distinction and a lot of credibility. And in my opinion, they are the city of Selma's greatest generation. And they deserve a better shake than what you were proposing to do. Please revise your decisions here and look at it and give us a better option. Don't just throw it out there and sweep it under the rug. Thank you very much.
Judy Beer, Finance Director for the City of Selma for 20 years. Changing insurance policies, major step, and it involves a lot of work and planning. And I don't believe it's something that can be done in 3 months. And for 20 years, I worked with the city and was very concerned with the finances. As a director, I worked with the MOUs for the various cities, or for the various units, and with the council and with the city manager. Our cost of insurance does go up. There's nothing we can do about it. The cost of insurance for all these other brokers and insurance policies is going to go up also. But what Lois said, unbelievably true. It is going to take a while. It is not something that you're going to be able to do effectively in 3 months and have in place by December 31st. What's going to happen on December 31st is you're going to say, we don't have a policy. And all of these people, all of your city employees and stuff, we're not going to have insurance, or we're going to have to pay an astronomical amount to try to get something. And as they said, especially your retirees, we've all gotten older, and many of us have medical issues that make us basically uninsurable. And do you want one of us to die because we couldn't get an insurance or a doctor that would service us? Now, I'm lucky. I am healthy. My husband is not quite as lucky. He has different conditions. He's looking forward to surgery right away. When I was telling him of this meeting, he says, my God, do I have to cancel the surgery? And I said, no, it's not going to be effective until December 31st. I said, but at that date, we may get a letter that says you have no insurance. please reconsider what you're doing. Your study and your getting new insurance is a project that would take you a year. It's not something you can do in 3 months. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Allen. I worked here for 29 years, retired as a fire captain here. One thing was bringing up, you said you're getting out of CalPERS. Are you getting out of the retirement system altogether? So you're just still going to be contributing to CalPERS? Just the medical issue. Is that correct? The whole thing. So what happens if you don't have a plan in place? Everybody goes without insurance? Hello, you guys are the ones that got making the decisions. Somebody goes without insurance?
That's the answer. That's exactly what I asked
And
on
what's the
September the
answer?
5th. And I got nothing.
Well, who's this person making these choices? Who's bringing this? Who's the HR person here?
Sitting right over there.
Where? Who? You?
Good.
So what's the answer?
Sir, Mr. Allen, Captain, address us, please.
Okay, well, okay, what's the answer? Do we all go without insurance? Do you go without insurance? Do they go without insurance?
No, this is public comment. We'll discuss it. You make your
I
comments
don't
and
get
then
an
we'll discuss
answer
it
then? Is that what?
when you're done.
No, I don't get the answer. Okay. All right, that's it.
You do get an answer. We just are not.
Yeah,
having a
I'll clarify
conversation.
to the public. The council and staff cannot respond directly to public comment. I'm sure that council will be discussing all of the items that have been raised after everyone has had their chance to comment.
We're not going to blow off your comments. It's just the format, okay?
I appreciate you responding to that and I believe you.
Got you. Thank you. Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it. Okay, does anybody else have any comments? Okay, do we have anybody online or on the phone who has any comments on this subject? Okay, with that, we'll bring the item back to council and discuss the comments that we just heard tonight. Does the city manager, would the city have any comments about this regarding the input? There are several questions that have been raised by the folks who've served our city so well for so many years.
Is there anything specific that you'd like me to answer, Mayor?
Just the comments, I believe, and the questions are pretty profound. So I just don't know if, in terms of being ready, kind of what I said at the last meeting still applies. It looks like we have the HR manager who's standing up here.
Yes. So I would like to address one of the questions about the pre-existing conditions. There are actually no limitations on the pre-existing conditions. So that one is one that we can guarantee. I actually have been texting the broker. She's going to log on, and I apologize for that. I should have asked her to be here to answer a lot of these questions, but she is going to log on in order to ask questions. I have to disagree when it says that we are not going to be able to have a plan in place. We will have a plan in place. This is one that I can definitely guarantee. We'll have a plan in place. We'll have a better plan in place than what we currently have with CalPERS. Will it be any better? It will be comparable or it will be better. But right now we don't have answers because we don't have all of the information because we're tied to CalPERS. We cannot get information from Anthem. We can't get rates from Anthem because we're tied to CalPERS. We can get rates from Blue Shield, but what about Blue Cross and all of the others? So I can tell you, we have received one, but that one, it is better than what we have. But we have not received all of them. We're not able to say, these are what we're going for. When should council decide to term from CalPERS, we will be actively looking into fully funded and self-funded. And again, retirees are going to be included as well. They're not ones, they're gonna have the same options available for those that are pre-65, which means they would have the same, excuse me, the same insurance options available as our active employees. For those that are post-65, they would have a Medicare supplement that is available to them. And again, there's no limitations on pre-existing conditions. And I'm just waiting for the person from Burner Benefits to log in to be able to ask additional questions as
Just
well.
a question while you were talking, Ms. Menegas, you said that at the last meeting, we were told that the city could not get any other quotes because it had to term CalPERS first.
No.
Now you're saying that you've already received a
It
quote.
wasn't an actual it was more of this is a potential. So it wasn't one to where, okay, this is a guaranteed.
So it's not bindable. You can't just go
Exactly.
back and tell them, do it.
We can't go back with that because we're still with PERS. So we know that this is what could potentially be, and that's why we can't offer it because we can't guarantee that. Once we're gone, or once, should we term PERS, then they could come back and say, okay, yes, those numbers are solid. But they can't say that now because we are tied to PERS.
If I-
And
if
Janie,
I could
my
just-
concern was that for those folks that have pre-existing conditions are not guaranteed that they're going to get their same doctors. And that's what you stated. And
Sure.
that's the truth.
There is no guarantee that everyone will get their same doctors. But what is the difference if CalPERS eliminates one of their plans and their doctors are not there anyway? So then it could happen either way, whether we're with PERS or not. We could just be saving money without PERS because we're eliminating that middleman. So there's no guarantee that when the change, because there are changes to 2 of the plans, which we have not received yet because CalPERS has not released it. Some of those doctors could not be on there and we have no say with that. So I guess my question is, what is the difference between CalPERS and us? There's no guarantee either way. We just could have better plans, better rates for our employees, or for the city, for our active employees, and for our retirees. If
And-
this was not a viable option, we would not have presented it at all.
I'm
But
hearing
this
from the folks that here tonight that they agree with that. They want better coverage and they want less premium. It's just that how quickly this is taking place is catching everyone by surprise and how little time, a little margin for error there is to get into another plan. That's what I'm hearing. A lot of concerns by retirees who really use their plans and need their plans. So they're the end users and they're the ones that are expressing the concerns here to pause for reflection and make sure that we have something to get into.
So I do have to disagree with you about retirees being the end users. All of our employees are the end users.
No, I didn't say they were the only end users. I said they are end users. They are utilizing the
users, okay.
plans as you can.
I
as you-
apologize for that. I heard you incorrect.
Hmm.
All of our employees are the ones that will potentially benefit from this. All of our employees will. We will be able to have an option available to them with open enrollment. Again, should we term from CalPERS, we will have the ability to have everything in place, open enrollment in November, with changes to happen in December on our part for a 1/1 start. Our broker right now said that she is on.
I have some questions, and just to make sure that I'm understanding the insurance world. I mean, I'm not an expert or anything, but my understanding is CalPERS is our provider, right? From there, we get our medical plans, which is going to be Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Anthem, Kaiser, whatever it is, right?
Correct.
From there, then you have another layer that's called a provider, which is going to be like your Santes and your community providers and things like that.
Correct.
And so those layers, those 2 layers are still there and they're still available, right? No matter who the broker or who the umbrella is.
Yes.
Because CalPERS is basically our umbrella. And then from there, you have your insurance companies, which is again, like I mentioned, the Blue Cross, the Blue Shields, the Blue Anthems, United Healthcare, whatever. And then from there, you have that, the providers. As long as those providers, the Santes and the community providers don't change and their doctors in those networks don't change, then your doctors may not change, your coverage may not change because all of those other 2 layers are still in place, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're not,
No.
so
Not correct.
Can we-
So
can
I
one
mean,
person-
again, I'm not in insurance, but I've been through, as I mentioned before, when I was in, the last meeting, is I went through this scary part as well when I was with Fresno, with my previous employer. And, that we can't get back in for 5 years. It's scary. I get it. But when I learned that it had to do with, again, the provider, had to do with the Santes and the community partnerships, and I can't remember what the other groups that are out there. Those are the ones that really are going to drive your doctors and things like that. Is that correct?
That is correct,
Okay.
because United Health, Anthem, Blue Shield, Blue Cross, any of them, they are not specifically with CalPERS. If we term CalPERS, we have the option of getting quotes directly from them. So that is correct. We have the ability, we would just eliminate CalPERS and go directly to them. As long as your doctor or is in that network and they don't term, then we have the ability to go directly to them. We're having technical difficulties.
I'll ask a quick question then before the broker gets on. So CalPERS, somebody brought up the fact that CalPERS has a lot of people in their plan. I believe somewhere around 1.5 million people that they buy health insurance for. How many people would the city of Selma be buying insurance for?
So right now we would have the option of 150 plus
150.
the retirees, so that'd be like 180.
Okay.
Yes.
So then there's some volume issue there, or no one would go to CalPERS if it was just a pass through that charged you a bunch of money just to have the CalPERS name. What are the advantages of CalPERS?
Okay, so our broker is online right now.
Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, sorry about that. I didn't know how to get here.
Thanks for coming on tonight.
No problem. I apologize for the delay.
And just to clarify, Mrs. Vincent is not under contract as the city's broker as of yet. She's consulting with us.
Okay, they were described as the broker, but at the last meeting, we were told that the city doesn't have a broker. So at this point, the city does not have a broker. And what would?
That's not correct. We do have brokers. In particular, Ms. Vincent is not currently our broker.
Health
right now.
insurance broker. I'm not
Correct.
talking about the other PNC. I'm just talking about health insurance.
Right. We
So
do
this-
have a broker. Mrs. Vincent is not it.
Okay,
So just to clarify that piece 1 second, CalPERS does not allow brokers to sell their plans. So you do have brokers for your ancillary lines such as dental, vision, life, etc. But on the CalPERS medical, CalPERS does not allow brokers to contract with them.
got it. And does CalPERS keep the commission, or do they not charge commission and they just charge that admin fee?
They do not disclose that. I would guarantee that there's some other form of revenue built into their plans outside of their administration fee, but they do not disclose that fee to anyone.
Ms. Benson, why would anyone go with CalPERS if they're just this big, kind of speed bump in the wave of someone getting a better price and better coverage with these carriers that they could go directly to? What's the hook for CalPERS?
There's a variety of things. Sometimes some people just don't want to deal or have the capacity to deal with insurance on their own. They leave it up to someone else. Sometimes they don't know any differently. If you've done something for so long and it just seems to be nobody's complaining, they don't tend to look. The other thing is CalPERS is a way to offer multiple carriers and multiple plan options where a group couldn't get that on their own. So a group of, say, 150 people would not be able to go and get 5 different carriers to offer benefits to their client. Now, the thing about that is, if you look at the CalPERS plans, the benefits are all the same. The difference is the providers that are within each of those networks. But the benefits on a United Healthcare HMO versus a Blue Cross HMO or a Blue Shield HMO are the same benefits, same deductible, same coinsurance, et cetera. So you're not really getting a lot of variety in your plan options. You're simply getting the ability to choose multiple plans. The other thing is not all groups would be able to get rates better than what they can get at CalPERS. So we have actually quoted on several groups over the years. I've been doing this now. This is my 23rd year. And we've quoted against CalPERS several times. And based on group size, demographic, sometimes even just their area, the rates that come back from carriers directly are actually higher than CalPERS. So it doesn't always mean that they could get rates better directly. In this instance, we believe they can. CalPERS has taken a drastic stance the last couple of years and the next 3 years moving forward in terms of rate increases and plan structure that is making many people look outside of CalPERS for that. Does that mean that everyone is going to move? No, but I can tell you that there has been significant movement that we've seen internally with our own company, just because the rates are getting so high that other carriers are now competitive.
Okay, so but are you willing to put that in writing, that you're willing to guarantee the city that the rates would be lower with another company that you put the city with if the city gets out of CalPERS?
Well, we can't ever guarantee rates, even if we weren't with CalPERS, or even if we were. We cannot guarantee anything because we don't see that. What we have done is gone out to a carrier or two that would allow us to even give us a pre-quote, I guess, for lack of a better word, that says this is kind of what we're looking at. And those rates were a little bit better than CalPERS. Now, the thing with being outside of CalPERS is when you are not with them, you manage your own plans. So you make your own rules. You don't have to abide by CalPERS requirements. So can I guarantee anything? No. Even if I was your broker, I couldn't guarantee rates. What we can say is that most likely it's not going to be higher. There's always a 1% chance, right? But most likely there would not be anything that would be higher. But excuse me, sorry, but you're giving yourself the freedom to be able to look and make your own determination for what you want internally.
Got it. This is, really important coverage.
Correct.
This is really
Absolutely.
important to people, and just to say that there may be the opportunity for savings. I mean, I think what I'm hearing tonight is people are interested in absolutely in, who's going up less than the next provider, because everybody's going up, they're all increasing, but it's just a matter of this is happening really abruptly. And I think what I'm hearing is those pre-quotes would be pretty valuable to see, even if, you say that they're not going to be held to account for those pre-quotes, at least that would, give the city and give potential people who are using the insurance the ability to see the differences in the plans, and especially in the medical providers too, hearing that as well.
That's
There's a real
correct.
question.
And I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, CalPERS has such a stranglehold on their plan that they have given carriers are not allowed to even provide rates to anybody until they get a term letter from that person. And that's kind of the problem that we have, is because there's such a deadline for that, where otherwise you wouldn't have that deadline. With regards to the carriers, I just wanted to speak really quickly on that. If you were to go direct to a carrier, you would have all of the same carriers or same providers that company has with CalPERS. So for example, if somebody has a United Healthcare medical plan and you went direct to United Healthcare, let's say as a carrier, there would be no one that would lose their providers under that United Healthcare plan because all the providers are the same. There's not a separate network that CalPERS uses. I can also tell you that the Anthem PPO plans, the Blue Shield HMO, and the Anthem HMO offered through CalPERS are what they call narrow network plans. They are limited providers. If you go direct, you would have the full gamut of providers. So you would not be limited to the smaller network through either of those carriers. So you would actually have the ability to provide more carriers or more providers if you were outside of CalPERS.
I have a question. Were you done, Mayor?
Sure.
So I have a question, regarding what you mentioned, that CalPERS basically like has a stronghold on all agencies that are with them. That even if we were to say today, we can't even make a move without leaving them because nobody will give us a quote, right?
That's
So you're saying
correct.
that we can't even look at other pricing. So I mean, I understand that this is a scary process, and it's, it's, some can say it's a gamble. But the thing is that we cannot compare what our new rates would be using going directly with going to CalPERS, because that CalPERS doesn't allow that. And so we have to take that leap of faith and go directly, because otherwise that's the only way we're going to find out, because we can't compare apples to apples unless we come away from CalPERS. Correct?
You are 100% correct.
Ms. Vincent, are you
Yes.
also saying that a broker couldn't just take an RFQ, just go out for an RFQ, request for a qualification on a broker, and ask the broker to say, well, go to the carriers that you brokers represent and say, we got 150 lives here. Here's the age demographics that were provided by the city. The medical performance is about average, below average, or above average in terms of frequency and severity. Can you run us some numbers on that? And then the city could compare those sort of numbers to the current CalPERS plan. I mean, couldn't you do that? I don't think you're actually prohibited from running. I think you called it a pre-quote, running some numbers. I know you can't get a bindable quote with Anthem saying, yeah, you can put it with us tomorrow once we give you these numbers. But you as a broker have that rating software, right? Or you have that connection with these companies where you could get a number based on scenarios. You could get a pretty good ballpark number so the city could see a comparison between the CalPERS rates and the other carriers' rates.
So unfortunately, that answer is no. And the reason why is when you have over 100 people, when you send a quote out or a request for a quote, you have to provide the name of the company, the number of lives, the demographics, how many males, females, ages, etc. And then they also require you to provide them the current provider. Even if I didn't tell them you were with CalPERS, because CalPERS utilizes Anthem, Blue Shield, and United Healthcare, as soon as the City of Selma is typed into their computer, it brings up CalPERS. And the contracts that the carriers have with CalPERS specifically preclude them from giving anybody a quote on an existing CalPERS account. They actually require us to send them a copy of the termination letter that was submitted with proof of submission to CalPERS before they will release a quote.
Got it. So that puts more of a burden on you as a broker to use your
You're
experience, correct? And
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
well, in the valley, cities or groups with 150 lives with average experience, they're getting this with Blue Shield and this with Anthem. So I guess it puts a little more burden on the brokers, but I would see a pretty good broker with pretty good experience, say 23 years like yours, would be able to come up with numbers like that and kind of be able to give a pretty good ballpark in terms of what the other companies are charging. Is that a fair statement?
Fair, yes. 100% accurate, not really. Because once you're over 100 lives, there are tons of factors that go into that. So what I can say is that we have a great relationship with one carrier who actually did provide us some numbers. Like we said, they're not firm, but they were actually a tad bit lower. In addition, we also have carriers with CalPERS that say, if you were to leave CalPERS, we would be able to provide you the same plans at the same rate as you have within CalPERS. Now, that's not providing you a savings, right? But it's providing you the flexibility to know that no matter what, you would be able to at least pay the same amount, not more. But you would have that freedom and flexibility to be able to look at other carriers maybe the next year or this year, if whatever it came to be, because those carriers have said, we're not really going to market against ourselves, right? We don't want to compete with ourselves. So if you want to leave, we're going to say, yeah, we'll take you, but these are going to be your rates and they're going to be equal to what you currently would be paying, not more. There could be less, but they would not be more. So there's at least that quote unquote guarantee that they wouldn't be higher.
Got it. So you're sort of gambling, I think, as one of the council members said, in the context gambling I'm using is gambling that if you do a lateral, you get the same premium, the same coverage. And you didn't say the same providers, but I'm assuming they would be the same providers.
I apologize. Yes, same providers.
Okay.
Correct.
So if you do the lateral, you're sort of looking at down the line that your broker is going to be able to do better than CalPERS.
That's
in terms of
correct.
getting, okay.
That's correct.
And have we seen a proposal from this broker or other brokers? There's a thing I've heard of it, RFQ or something, where you go out for brokers, right? And brokers send their qualifications in, and some brokers are really good. And they will make the case, we will beat CalPERS. I don't know if we've seen that. You know, I don't know. I'm not saying the city has it, the city hasn't. But I think that would be important given what Ms. Benson is saying. It's really important if the city's going to make a lateral move from one plan to the next and put itself in jeopardy for to get into that plan, that it should pay off, that broker is going to have the expertise to make it pay off.
Well, Mayor, that would be premature just because we're still with CalPERS and the council hasn't approved going outside of CalPERS. So there, as Ms. Vincent said, CalPERS doesn't allow brokers, right? So we will do that after we're outside of CalPERS.
So city manager, could the city council approve going out for other brokers, like broker quotes, not going to other carriers? I don't think CalPERS can limit you from searching the market for other brokers, correct? I don't think their contract extends to brokers. It's just to going to other, right? Getting quotes from other companies.
As long as we're still with CalPERS, it's irrelevant because we're going directly to CalPERS.
But you could go out and ask for a RFQ, a request for qualifications from other brokers with specifically the question that Ms. Minson is saying, which is, you're going to do potentially a lateral the first year. That's pretty much guaranteed, but we're going to be able to beat that price next year. There are probably some brokers out there that could give a presentation to that effect.
So yeah, that was actually discussed the first time we discussed this item, that we are going out to RFQ for a broker once we're outside of CalPERS. So yeah, I completely understand your question. Yeah.
Right, but I mean without moving the insurance. You go out to RFQ without moving the insurance.
We're going to look at all the options, and we specifically stated every option that we have now available to our retirees and existing employees. We're going to look at those same options with the broker that we end up going with.
Okay.
But I just need a clarification because I think we're going around in circles. We cannot do anything unless we're out of CalPERS, because CalPERS is holding us hostage in order for us to go anywhere else, correct? How?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean, what I'm hearing is we can't go to other carriers and get other quotes from carriers, but CalPERS, they couldn't keep us from going out and hearing from other brokers, or we wouldn't be talking to Miss Vincent tonight. She's another broker, right? I mean, CalPERS isn't gonna
We can't-
term the plan or
Exactly.
sue us because we talked to Jennifer
You're-
Vincent.
You're correct, but the problem is there's not a lot of brokers that will, as a broker, we're not able to even tell you anything. I would never put my faith in somebody who guaranteed they could do something because they can't. So I can sit here and tell you, I guarantee I can get you a better rate. And I'm 99.9% sure, but there's always that 0.1%. The way the carrier works is, let's say that you went out to look at 5 different brokers and they all came back to you. If you decided to leave CalPERS and went to all 5 of those brokers, every broker that goes out to a carrier is going to get the same rate. A carrier cannot release a quote to one broker that they don't release to another. So I can tell you, I can beat that rate right now. Can I guarantee it? Probably. I mean, I wouldn't hold my whole hat on that because I'm smart enough to know in business that I don't ever guarantee anything. Because if it doesn't happen, who's going to have to pay the difference? Me. Well, you know, that I don't make that kind of money. But would I be, in my experience, in our experience, in our you know, we have several groups, you know, companies that have been with CISC or even CalPERS that have left and have never gone back. We've had experience enough to know that we can almost be certain that we could find you a better plan with better options, more providers than what you currently have available, because you're using narrow networks and we would be using full networks, than what you currently have with CalPERS. Now, am I going to promise that? No, I can't do that. And nobody can do that. So there's not a broker out there that could do that, because a carrier, whether I have the best relationship in the world with Blue Shield, they're never going to, they can't legally give me a rate that they don't give somebody else. Something came into play a few years ago, several years ago now. Everything seems a few years, and when you've been doing it so long, but that basically requires transparency. And that's transparency from the carrier to the broker and transparency from the broker to the client. So there's nothing that anybody could do differently. And so the question is, well, then why would anybody pick you as a broker instead of the guy down the street? And at the end of the day, the only thing a broker provides is relationship and service. And so that's the bottom line. I mean, we as a broker, you sell yourself. You don't sell plans because everybody can get the same plans. You sell yourself. So when you said, yes, we could go out for an RFQ, you absolutely could. But until you leave CalPERS, a broker would be basically wasting, not wasting, but there's not a whole lot they can do except sell themselves to you. And if you decided to stay with CalPERS, you could keep them on as a consultant. So you could pay a consultant on the side to help look at things and do things, but you could never be, that person would never be appointed to broker your plan with CalPERS.
Got it. Okay, so the city could go out and do an RFQ and get interviews with brokers and get everything that Ms. Vincent said in writing and have an agenda item where they would show all of what she's talking about. Sounds perfectly qualified. But
Correct.
it doesn't necessitate jumping out of the plan.
It kind of does, though.
It absolutely does. The RFQ comes after we exit CalPERS, because any broker, as Ms. Vincent has repeatedly said, won't give us actual quotes until we're out of CalPERS.
Yeah, so I think the concern is what these brokers, their background is, what their performance is, what their targets have been, what their experience has been. you know, they don't give guarantees, but they can talk about their experience and they could talk about commissions. They can talk about all that stuff,
But
you
not
know, in
rates.
their,
Yeah, but all the rates are
in
the
their
same.
communications, not the carriers, the brokers themselves and their, we're done with with oral communications. Anyone who has not given oral communication yet can still come back. We'll have an opportunity for that, but no one has already weighed in. And we've talked about this matter now. Does council have any other input? It's not a public hearing. We could go back. It's a regular business item. So you can go back and ask for additional oral communications. City's done it.
So,
many times.
I don't think that we can go back to oral communication again because she was not part of the agenda to do this and we brought her in, right? Am I correct?
Why did they bring her in?
Correct. Once we do oral communications on an item, it's closed after that.
Mhm.
Council by a majority wants to reopen.
She
oral
was
communications.
giving oral communications. It's broker that,
She's part of staff's
The
report.
consultant for the
Mhm.
city.
amen.
So with that, I'm ready to make a motion. If there's no other comments or concerns from council.
Okay, well, I've stated my concerns. I stated them at the last meeting
Okay.
when I said it was way too soon. We didn't have enough information.
I agree. I just want to say I agree with all of you. Those were my concerns on September the 5th. I stated exactly that. We received that information. It didn't give us enough time to even look it over. And I understand health insurance. And I know you don't make these type of decisions on one night. There's no way. And I'm very concerned. I'm concerned for people, especially that have a condition, because I've seen it happen in the past and I've stated that on record, what it did to individuals that could not see their doctors because they switched plans. And it is devastating. So with that, those are my comments, my concerns.
And as I made a, comment last time and this time, I actually went through where our agency exited and we did have better plans. And so with that, I make a motion to adopt the resolution approving to terminate participation with CalPERS.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
No.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
No, motion passes. And with that, we've been at it a little over an hour. If council's okay, can we take a 5-minute break and we'll be back at 10 after 7. Thank you, everyone.
Make sure to wait to see my We should take care of it. There are things from the beginning.
I know if I go out there, we're gonna get lynched.
Okay, we're getting ready to get started. We have all our planning commissioners here.
Our chair's not here yet.
Solace.
Missing one. Teresa.
Vice Chair Singh. Tell Teresa, hurry up. We're starting. We started.
Okay, with that, we will resume our meeting and head into our final agenda item tonight, which is a study session on the commercial residential downtown design standards workshop.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Our Deputy City Manager, Jerome Keene, is going to take this item.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, everyone. Staff, along with our consultant of choice, Rincon consultant Eric Von Berg, project manager, will be presenting. We have a presentation to kind of go through the purpose of design standards and guidelines. And we'll be presenting something I think new to the group. Like we're gonna have some live polling to get some real-time feedback from folks in the audience as well as people online of what some of the preference is in terms of style and features related to design standards. So with that, let me share the screen. And then I believe everybody also has a copy of the presentation in front of them. So,
All right.
kind of an outline of what we're going to go over. I'll give a brief update on the status of the zoning code update. We're going to describe what objective design standards are and why we're going to adopt them. And then we're going to present but we will present some examples for you guys to provide some feedback on for downtown standards, commercial, and then single family and multifamily design standards. And then we'll talk about some of the next steps. And then we'll take the feedback and then put it into the zoning code update, which will be presented shortly. Staff has worked through various iterations of the zoning code update to the point where this is one of the final remaining items, and that's why we're here to have the workshop. So to start, I want to get everybody logged into their interactive polling. There's a QR code in your packet. You can use your phone to capture the QR code, which will take you to our interactive polling kind of web application. Try to keep it fun over here in development services. So once I get kind of a consensus that everybody, if you need help, we can walk around. Oh,
Slido.
Slido, yes. And we also have the Wi-Fi password if people have like variety.
It's on page 2 of the document that everyone has.
Or you could point it at the screen as well. And then for everybody online, you can
What would you
type in the web code, or again, it's on the screen so they could use the QR code for the people participating outside of City Hall.
And as a consultant, what's important here is that I'm getting your input. It's your community. So we want, you don't want City of Selma is what I want. It's what you guys want, for your city to look like and to be developed as. So that's the importance of this, getting your feedback.
Anybody have any issues? Raise your hand. I can walk around and help out. I'm of that generation that knows technology. Everybody good?
Yeah, it's asking to enter a word.
And oh, you can ask questions as well. There is a question. There are no active polls at the moment. So if you have a question, we can screen the questions and go from there. So we haven't gotten to the current poll yet. Some people have inputted some things of what you would like to see the design standards improve. So we have a couple slides, but what are objective design standards? You know, what's driving this issue? There was various legislation that was adopted by the state of California that requires local agencies to adopt objective design standards. But what are they? Standards, objective standards are measurable, they're verifiable and knowable to all parties prior to the project submittal. So as an example, an objective design standard would be a 4-foot setback, minimum setback. A subjective design standard, which were used throughout the state, would be a front yard setback consistent with the character of the neighborhood. What is the character of the neighborhood? It could be what I think, but maybe I leave the jurisdiction I'm working and go somewhere else and someone else comes in, they have a different idea of what the character of that neighborhood is. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create an environment where it's apples to apples for every application that comes in. It helps so that developers, which there are some in the room, know the rules before they come in and they're not negotiated or changed midstream because they spend time creating construction documents, they spend time working with architects, they spend time talking with staff beforehand to get an idea of what the requirements are. And when you have subjective standards, they can change midstream, and then all the money that they spend on their plans, all the work that they've done, they have to go back and revise it because someone's opinion rather than the standard that's been adopted that can be easily verified has changed. So at the end of the story, at the end of the, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we're using standards and not making personal or subjective judgments before decision-making bodies. So let me delete these. So we have it's kind of a test question to show you how this works for people. So, and some people ask questions on this. So, what would you like to see the design standards improve? 1 word, 2 words? It could be facade, it could be colors, it could be downtown, it could be a street, it could be whatever you guys want. You can put in more than one if something comes to mind, and they will be mapped on the screen. And if someone says the same thing as you, like let's say multiple people say downtown, downtown will get bigger. It's called a word map. And what it does, it promotes ideas, it promotes what the thinking is of the group, right? So you have 2 with facades, more or less. And it's anonymous. You can put as many as you want. Once they stop showing up, we'll kind of get an idea of what is an opinion of what are we looking to achieve with the design standards. I like how the numbers keep going up on who's participating. That's
Fire safe on there.
yes, fire safety. Fire safety. Maybe like 10 more seconds. Okay, so let me pause this so we can talk about it. So what you can see what you can see is there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go into character. There's a lot of things that design standards can address. Inviting's big on there, but inviting's a subjective standard. What is inviting? But how do we make it inviting? Do we have, vibrant colors? Do we have open windows? Do we have, cleaned up facades, or do we have curbside cafes? Different things, right, that make it inviting, but inviting still a subjective standard. What's inviting to me is not what's inviting to, Chief Jordan over here. He's new to town. He may have a different, opinion on what's inviting. I would like him to think like I do, but I don't, probably. So we might, I don't know. So I love all the ideas, all these things will take this information, and this is what this exercise is meant to do, right? Is take in information and identify what do we need to include in these standards based off of public input. So with that, we'll go to the next. So I'll turn it over to Eric to give some description on some of the features.
So what we're talking here is an objective design. So here's a picture of a multifamily house or apartment complex, but there isn't much character to it when you look at it. It's pretty flat wall. The windows don't have any real trim to them. There is a little bit of rock work down at the bottom there, but it doesn't really stand out.
I would ask, is this inviting?
No.
Okay.
There's another example where again, you have basically a flat front of the building. There isn't much difference in the colors, so nothing pops or stands out there. Pretty standard design. So here's a different example here where you can see where you've got a second story porch, with the railing that gives character to it. There's the dividers in the windows to give some extra character to it. The roof line gives it some additional character and articulation. And as well, you look at the canopies down on the first floor. It's a different color on the first floor to the second floor. So, and it's the lighting, and you can look into the building. So that gives it that sense of invitingness, being inviting to come in there. You can see what's going on there.
Thank you.
And so on the left, if you look at, these are sort of the terms we use, and I wouldn't get too caught up in the terms as far as it's more, what do they mean to you? But it's just a way of describing things that we'll use when we actually write these objective design standards. So massing, so like here you can see where you have that patio coming out, or the deck on second floor. So there's a difference in the building form there. So it's not just this flat wall, and that as well as the awnings there. And again, that's kind of attributed to the articulation as well, with the railings like on the upper windows there to give some articulation to the walls. There isn't really any blank walls in this scene here. The different building materials where you have the different types, on the first floor versus the second floor there, and trims on the windows, and the roof line actually has other building materials as well. And the same with the facade. And then with color, it's when you get into objective design standards, you can't be you can't be particular about colors, but you can do color themes, or you can say the number of colors, like a building needs to have three colors, in a certain palette or something like that. And then you can see here roof lines. So there's different types of roof lines that can really determine the character of a building, and add attractiveness to a building. And then fenestration, fancy word for just how the windows and doors look on a building there. So if we go to the next slide. So this shows you here, this is a sample of a multifamily development, and it's showing the different types of the examples on the back that we just talked about there. So what we'll do with this is, you can see in each of the bubbles, there's a number there, and that it goes to that list over there. And so what we want you to do is is rank these, and what, hit it one more time. To rank your top three of these designs, objective design standards that you think is the most appealing to you, or you like the most, that would be most important to have as an objective design.
So as Eric said, we want you to rank which of those features are your top three features. So if you want to go to your phone, you can pick the first three and then you can rearrange them however you feel they should be ranked in order of importance. So we'll give you guys some time to do that.
You guys are doing that. So one of our thoughts, and Jerome and I discussing on how to implement these objective design standards, is the idea of, let's say with a specific, let's say with commercial, we'd have a list of, here's some objective design standards that need to be met. And it could be like a list of 10, 15, or 20. And then with a requirement that you have to meet, let's say 10 of the 20 design standards need to be shown up in your plans in order to meet those standards. That way it gives flexibility, but as well it for the developers coming in, but it does also then, you know, we're not using that word guarantee these days, but that it will show, you know, it will provide for a building that's going to be attractive and inviting, and what is going to fit the character of Selma.
And the goal would be to identify maybe mandatory items, as well as maybe have, like, as Eric said, some items that could be, if we have 10 of them, you put in 5, and the idea would be those items are acceptable. But depending on the type of project, maybe the location, it could vary in terms of which are required. It also allows flexibility for the developer in terms of maybe some features are out of their price range. So it gives them some flexibility to comply with the design standards that the city requires or would like to see, but fit within their budget as well. Okay, so I don't see anybody ranking. I see 17 rankings up there. So facade being number 1, street level features number 2 is still changing. Color tied for number 2. Massing, roof lines, articulation. And then building materials was last, but I think people thought instead. They're very similar. They're very intertwined in that facet. So I'll just assume that the one vote for building materials was. Any questions? I have questions that are being submitted on the app as well. That I think we'll address them, or we can address them at the end, which are more related to, I think some of the questions are more related to the zoning code update than actual design standards. But so why would we do objective design standards? It streamlines review because the expectations are there. It's considerably easier to enforce. It removes ambiguity between projects in the same vicinity. Everybody's got to do the same thing. Everybody has the same requirements. Again, what's inviting to me today when I work here, if I approve a project and someone comes in after the fact, and the next planner or the next deputy city manager that's overseeing development services, their idea of inviting may be different. And an applicant comes in and wants to do the same thing as the prior project, but what's inviting is not the same. So objective design standards eliminates kind of that confusion. It promotes consistency. And then as I talk about more often than I like to, it gives reasonable expectations of what will be needed when construction occurs from developers or applicants, right? And that's what the development community, that's what applicants need, is some reasonable expectation that when they submit their project, they spend money midstream, it's not going to shift gears, it's not going to run off the rails with a list of requirements that they were unaware of, right? Everything that we have in the standards would be available for applicants during either the pre-development review process or during the entitlement process prior to them submitting, that they would review those and staff would review applications in accordance with, you know, the standards.
And yeah, and then it also helped staff in that it's a much easier process to review and go through, and so that you can get through permitting quicker, the staff can.
Okay, so
Well, we'll start here with the downtown objective design standards. So the goal with these is to promote the look and feel you want for downtown, maintain the historic feel and uniqueness of downtown, and then simplify development process for downtown. With that, we're showing some different facade elements. So on A, you're looking at a facade that has, you know, some different, a little bit, you know, has articulation to it, but it's really a straight roof line. It doesn't necessarily provide much character, I would say. You know, the building materials, there isn't, you know, it's the whole bottom is just brick materials, so there's not a big difference there on that look. Like I said, you still have that articulation there, but not much of a inviting feeling where there's not, you know, there's not really, you can't see much of a window treatment in that scenario. When you go to B, you have the first floor window treatments and then the second floor window treatments, along with some, you know, different trim along those windows to help them pop. There's the signage that sticks out, the awnings that give different character to them. There's different colors involved between the buildings there. So those are some of the kind of features we're looking at in B. C gives you the roof line has different height levels, plus you have the window treatments. You have the round windows up top within the different types of windows then on the second floor versus the first floor. You have awnings that give a color pop to that. You have some more articulation with the coping that you can see at the 3 or 4 different levels there. So it gives you different, you know, architectural features that kind of attract your attention. So it gives it more of a character, I would say, you know, compared to A. And then you have D there where it's, you also again have, it's just a 2-story, but you have the roof line there. It's a flat roof line, but it gives sort of character ornamental features to it. There's added, you know, trim to those windows there, with the window boxes as well. And then, you know, this invitingness of those open windows in the front, you know, along with then some of the artwork or the in the front for that street level view. And, you know, I would say provides that invitingness into that building there, because you can see and see what's going on and then want to be part of that.
So what we're gonna ask the group to do in the public at home, and unfortunately for the public at home, when I change the slide, they'll no longer see these, but everybody else has their printouts in front of them for reference. We're gonna ask you to pick which one you prefer. We want you to pay attention, and this is really how the presentation is gonna go. We want you to pay attention to the features, the look, the feel of the item, and what we're going to take away from that is those are the features and the standards that we developed. So as an example, let's say for B, I like the features in B. It has signage that's overwalking, you know, the pedestrian path so people can see. It has awnings. I like the fact that the buildings are different. Maybe they're all the same material, but they're different color. So it gives it some character. I would pick B if that was my preference. So I want the group to really pay attention to the features within the photo, so that staff can then go back and kind of pull out the features in the group's preference, if that makes sense.
It'll be like Jerome had said, we could have mandatory standards, and then we have other ones that are, you know, here's then the optional list that you need to choose and do a certain amount from.
So flip the slide, the poll will be open for people to vote. You can submit the questions for this, yes. There's other ones where we'll allow maybe 3 choices, but for this one, it's just 1. That's about the number. Here's another couple examples of downtown facades.
So if you look like on A there where you have the arches in the windows, that gives a different look, you know, in comparison to that flat roof line, but there's also quite a bit of ornamentation on that window that gives an architectural appeal to it, along with the colored awnings that give it a little pop to that. When you go down to B, it's more of a contemporary style, I would say, you know, facade, very square lines, you know, cubism, I guess you would say, with the articulation on that sidewall, plus this articulation from that roof line, but with the straight. So it's got more of a clean lines, although the windows are a little bit tinted, so you don't quite get that feel inside the building. Where then C, you have nice, the awnings that are the aluminum awnings that give nice character that go up the building. You have that contrast between the brick and the awnings there. Big open windows at the first floor to give you that inviting feeling into the building there, along with some ornamentation on the top of the roof line with, again, the flat roof line. You have D where you have the sort of the curved arch of a parapet, thank you. And then that sort of the shake roof line, that's a deeper roof line there to give you good articulation there. And then with the contrast of the red and white brick, along with the other siding on there, along with the squared windows that give you, you know, nice feeling there as well, of being able to go inside, you know,
I would
looking
also
inside.
say D kind of has like a older town feel to it, which is a more of a theme.
Yeah, sort of like, yeah, country, yeah, more, that would say, yeah, leaning towards like a country theme type of thing. But I didn't use Kingsburg as an example. Too themed for.
Friday on that one.
'22. So again, now we got into more massing of looking at sort of the front of the buildings here, where you have A, which has you know, the different brickwork on the first floor, and then going up, you have different types of massing on the siding and design features there, with the arch windows to give it, you know, different character there. B is more of a flat front with not much articulation except for the awning that sticks out. And you know, a little bit of color design and a little bit of articulation with that red structure there, but it, you know, doesn't give you a whole lot of articulation. With C, you have a much more character, sort of a, you know, a historic feel to it, with the nice architectural features of the awning coming out there with the different colors, the brickwork with the different types of brickwork on the edge treatment there, along with the small square windows that, you know, floor to ceiling, and allow that invitingness into that building there, along with the extra windows up top to give it some additional feeling on that. And then D is more of a, I guess you would say, a modern design, but we have the sort of covered walkway where that's coming out on that second floor with the decking there, and the sort of mosaic feel on that decking there on the second floor, along with full windows, you know, floor to ceiling windows again, with some difference in color, but not a whole lot of there, and then a flat roof line from on above that with then different types of window treatments on the second floor. Oh, there. So here we're showing different awning types here, with A being a like an aluminum awning, more of a kind of substance to it, gives a nice character with the usually has different types of texture to them. B is the straight awning coming out of the roof line, gives good protection, solid looking, gives a nice articulation to when you're walking down the street. C, you got the different colored and cloth awnings there that give different character, and I would say more of an antique feel to it. And then D is can't see quite the top of them, but they're sort of oval awnings that cover in front of either windows or entryways there, with a different color to it compared to the facade. So it gives a pop there between the color types. You're clear,
pretty
clear about this one.
I know somebody's lying. I know somebody's lying because I talked about awnings with somebody today and they did not say C.
Oh, they got it in. All right. So we're now moving on to commercial objective design features. So what we're looking at here is the different sort of styles of buildings that you could have, where you have different features such as, so A is called wall setbacks. So as you can see in the photo and in the diagram, where you have a difference in depth of the wall. So it's not just a flat wall. So that creates character of the building. Whereas then another way of doing that is in B, where you have the upper floors stepped back so that you have, one plane and then you have a second plane step back again. So you don't have this big massing right in front of you. And then it allows for doing different features to give different character in that step back there. And as well can on a smaller street or something like that, that setback can then allow it to feel more open versus having these buildings right all along the street line. And then C is utilizing accent lines instead of stepping back the walls in any way. So that could be things with having different architectural features, different types of window trimming, using colors that really pop between the buildings, the building's facade color, to provide character there, but you don't have that change in massing as much. This one, we're looking at different types of buildings for commercial development, with showing some good articulation in the building massing with some coming out and then going in there with the different, as well, colors and building materials from the roof line above to the brickwork down below. And as well, then some nice street features with the planter boxes there you can see that on the left side there. B is more of example of using, it's a single form of building materials, but in different shapes along the building there. So you have that archway into the entranceway compared to the, in contrast to the roof line being straight, and with that roof line having the vertical bricks compared to the horizontal ones as they're laid out there. And then as well, some different, sort of the built-in of the signage there. And a little bit of articulation on the bottom level there too. So even though it's a single form of building material, it creates contrast the way it was designed. C would be more of a modern kind of looking building with that curved roof line with compared to then the straight edge above there, with some articulation on the first floor with large windows looking into the building, but not much difference in color there. So you only have, this, uniform color theme versus having maybe some different colors that could make it pop. And then D again is utilizing different architectural building materials compared to the brickwork, and then the articulation of those window treatments or the roof line, sticking out with a different roof line on the entryway between the two buildings there. And then as well with the landscaping that creates nice features, street level features there that can be inviting, along with the large windows on the first floor to create that. But again, here not much contrast in colors as well. So there's some little bit darker trim, but it's kind of small compared to the rest of the building there. So they did not a whole lot of change in color. Now, these are examples of more sort of your strip commercial style of commercial, with A being what's seen on the street frontage, and to see with the cars in front of that's the drive-through. So they sort of incorporated the drive-through, but behind the vegetation, the landscaping, so that it's not quite apparent as you're walking or driving down the street there. With some nice articulation in the roof line and in the building massing, along with some different feature building materials. You can see the little rock work going partway up each of the columns there to create some character, and as well the lighting on the side of the building. And then in B is more of a uniform strip commercial with a sloped roof, but not much, a little bit of difference in the building materials, but you don't really see a color pop between the different features on there. Windows that are covered so that they don't really create an inviting feeling in there. And then you go with C, where you have some nice street level design features that could also be considered more of a defensive with the wall there, so it's not necessarily as inviting, but creates a nice a look to it or attractiveness. Within the sloped roof line again, that's a steel roof with a different color contrast to the rest of the building there. That gives some nice contrast, and then as well, different articulation in that building style within windows as well, but not really you don't see an entryway into the building there, so it doesn't create attractiveness. And then on D, it's another strip commercial, but you have the two levels of roof awnings there, and as well different colors of those roof awnings, along with the the awnings coming out that creates nice articulation with the beams coming down. Creates a nice walkable area underneath those awnings there in front of each of those storefronts, and as well a nice contrast between the color of the facade and the roof line and the roof, so that you creates a nice keys the eye. And then as well as some design features on the beams there, as you can see, with brickwork around at the bottom base of each of those. So it creates an attraction, and then along with those full-size windows that create that inviting feeling into the building.
So, if you want to expound with your microphone on, but I can address it. So the question was, the slides don't really present the same commercial look from one to the other. That's not the intent. The intent is the features. The intent is what about the pictures or of the commercial developments are attractive that you would like standards to implement. A theme is something maybe in a district such as downtown. Commercial throughout the entire city, theme wise, is extremely hard to implement citywide. So the intent of these photos is to garner input into features, and so we can implement those features as part of commercial development throughout the city, not necessarily develop a theme, if that makes sense.
Jerome, I have a question. What if, I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but what if you don't like none of these? I mean, why this?
As I stated, these are just examples of what could be done, and we're looking at features. If there's a specific example, we're always open to comment. We're always open to example. At the end of the presentation, we'll take, if someone likes the look of a specific shopping center, tell us what it is. We'll go and take pictures of it and identify the features. The issue is the features of the commercial development, not necessarily the look per se.
So now we're moving on to housing objective design features. And here's just example of different materials. So looking at from the faux rock, sort of natural stone look on A compared to the brickwork on B. That's more of the red used brick type of look. And then C, another type of brick, but it's more sort of natural color, uniform in color. D is another, sort of rock type that you can see along with E that looks more like a natural stone or just, a stacked wall rock feature. And then F, a very clean sort of granite with the contrasting colors there, but nice solid feel.
For this exercise, we're going to ask you to rank your top three. more of a variation. We don't want everything to just have brick. We don't want everything. Want to give everybody the option in this case to rank 3 because we have more choices. So
And just to clarify, this is gonna be for like on the house. What would you like to see on a house?
right. You can pick the order. Once you select one, it'll put it at the top, and then you can readjust the order if the way you click them is not the original order you preferred.
With, some of these are pretty similar styles, so it's to try to get that little bit of variation of what. Now we're going to move on to roof lines. So if you're looking here, so A is showing, where you have several different roof lines and peaks or pitches. So it gives a lot of different contrast and articulation when you're looking at the building. B, where you have some articulation, but it's more uniform look with the same pitch for both of those roof lines there. C, where you have a lot of roof that you're seeing from the front of the building versus having that pitch in the front, along with the, with a couple different, with the pretty much the same roof pitch, except for that one variation there with the dormer windows there on that side. Then you have D, which is a flat roof line, more of a modern look, where you still have that, the building itself has some articulation with the different level, roof lines at different depths there, but definitely much more modern look to it and use of steel. Now we're talking about fenestration and articulation. So looking at A, showing the articulation of that roof line sticking out, from the building. So it gives you that depth of field there. B, you have the fenestration of the window treatment on that window there to give it, it's different color and style, and look compared to the rest of the building there. C would be another form of articulation with the wall coming out, so it gives a more change in depth when you're looking at the front of the building there. And D is then you have again articulation with the roof line, separate roof line for the entrance, that gives it additional feeling to the building. And then E, where you have again articulation of a patio, so it's the deck border there, and with different colors and style there to give it a different look. And then as well, F again, the articulation at the ground floor, at street level there to give a different depth from the rest of the building there. So again, we're looking here, I think ranking the top 3 here and looking at those different features there of what you like the best. Right. We like second decks. Now here, looking at now different housing types or styles. So we have A is more of a craftsman style that has a lot of the articulation between the patio roof line and then the rest of the house roof line. Nice contrast and colors between the trim and the facade color, along with the additional different building materials and different shapes and styles within that structure to give it some different character there, along with the small fence there, the gated fence with the landscaping on it. And then we have B, more of a sort of a colonial style home where you have the 2 different pitch lines in the roof line there to give it some articulation and symmetry. Thank you. And then you have window trims, the different, contrasting color to the rest of the house, along with the articulation and different style of the entryway, patio, the covering, or did I say porte-cochere? And then the windows as well, with the trim inside the windows, and to give an additional feeling, and as well the contrasting red door that gives it a nice little pop to it. And then C would be your sort of had the term earlier today. I was going to use sort of your standard California style home with the stucco, and there is some, you can see some trim level with the window around the windows, but it's not painted a different color, so it doesn't really pop out as much. But you have the garage door of a different color, that has in the same tonal group as the rest of the building there. And you have some articulation with the different roof lines on the first floor versus then the second floor pitch levels there, and as well the garage out front within the setback of the entryway and the window there. Now here's the second choice of housing types here, where you have sort of a French country, I guess you could call it, with the roof gables on the roof to give it some character there with the deep roof line, and columns out front in the patio there with then different colored trim and style in the front level, along with different window styles to the left there on the second floor, with the different colored trim to the rest of the house as well. And then you have sort of call this a modern ranch style home, and is number B there with you have two different pitch lines that you're looking at it from the front there. With on the right side you have looking at the peak versus the roof line with the gable. On the left side you get the nice colored awnings that are in contrast to the paint color of the house, and as well landscaping and window. The windows don't have their trim is the same color as the house, but you know there is that articulation there, and then as well some different design building materials between there in the facade. And then C would be your sort of California classic again, where you have contrasting garage door color versus the house, a different type of building material there where it's a siding that gives it some different appeal compared to stucco, with some variation in the roof line where you have the pitch over the garage, but then you're seeing the rest, the top of the roof line on the other portion of the house. Landscaping, you know, and then the window, having a nice window with the arched window there and entry into the building. We're moving on to multifamily style of housing. So we're showing on A where you have, you know, it's multi-story where you have the massing is pretty even in the front, but with not a whole lot of articulation, but use of color to differentiate between the different styles, with the uniform theme of the windows there, but with the patio giving also some articulation to the front of the building. B, where you'd have a more sort of colonial or kind of look to it. Townhome, yeah, townhome with the gables up top and the pitched roof lines, and then the popping colors between the different building styles. So it gives it a different feel on that, with some articulation on some of those with the white windows coming out of the building there. So it gives it additional character within there, and then street level windows. And so it seems like it gives it a nice street level feel as you walk by. And then C would be sort of your more modern apartments where you have, so on C, it's a pretty uniform color. There's not a whole lot of contrast there. I would say basic window trim on there and limited landscaping. But you also have some features at the top of the pitch of the roof there. And then D, where you have another sort of apartment complex, modern apartment complex, but it has more articulation with the patios coming out and a little more architectural feature to the beams, the columns coming down, as well as the building materials of for the patio fencing there, and different colors being used for the articulation on those. And then here's your last style. These are sort of smaller apartment or missing middle type of housing. So like in A, that'd be a 4-unit apartment there. Where you have the 2 entryways in the middle there for the first 2 apartments, and then but you have nice staircases up. It gives you good articulation along with the patios or the entryways that come out from the regular building, as well as the different archways or the pitch levels on the roofs and architectural features there on the top of the roofs and bay windows to give it additional depth. So there's a lot of variation, and as well with utilizing colors to create attractiveness of that building. B would be a pretty uniform looking fourplex with the kind of standard roof line with some, the difference in the pitch there over each of those windows there, but a pretty uniform look with some change in the building materials on the front there, from the brickwork on the lower, and then siding for the other parts of the building there. And then C would be more of a modern building type with the massing is pretty, it's flat, but you have some articulation with the inset of the patios there, and as well inset of the windows to create this feel of depth there. And as well the different building materials that are being used from the first floor compared to the second floor there. And as well, you have then the step back massing at the very top there, where you have the decking, and then back to the rest of that final story there. And then a different look on the side of the building as well. And as well on C, you have that brickwork at the street level to create sort of a sense of going from public space to private space there, but still creates an inviting feel. And then D would be another sort of modern look where you have that flat line roof, but you have those top roofs there that give it, architectural appeal there, and then use of colors and different window styles. There are size of windows there to create character, as well as those entryways having the depth as well.
So that concludes the interactive portion of the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll take, like I said, we're going to take the feedback in terms of the features because everybody has different opinions, but it's the features that remain, right? So we're going to take a look at the results and identify the features that if there's a clear consensus, everybody voted for one, we'll take features from that, but it doesn't mean we're going to ignore the other ones per se. We may take, very specific features from those items and include those as part of the development standards and design standards as well. So I do have some questions, and they're not the only questions that are going to be answered tonight, obviously. So a couple questions. Can we do outdoor dining spaces? Yes, that's part of the zoning code update, not part of design standards. So as part of the zoning code update in the downtown or central business district zone, we would just have to add, outdoor dining as an allowed use, which I believe staff has included as part of the development of that zone district. Music, same thing. Music is subject to the noise ordinance, but as long as it complies with what the zoning code update allows, which would allow for some additional entertainment or nightlife downtown as part of that central business district zone, it would be allowed. Murals, I don't recall. I think murals were included in the zoning code update. And there's a specific process for how murals are done in the current zoning code as well.
I don't think we changed that.
I
much.
believe
I
it-
think
I
it was
believe it's the
pretty
same.
standard. It
Yeah.
was set up, so we kept it. We really didn't make much changes there.
Right, and then I have two questions about the look of the art center. Could the art center be built today the way it looks? It's kind of a trick question. Yes, because we don't have design standards. There's nothing currently in our current code that prohibits it from being built that way. That's what we're looking to do. So if we adopted standards, it says, you know, it needs, cloth overhangs over the entryway and first floor or the first 8-10 feet of facade on the bottom with a different color above there to the roof line. That would be something that if there was an improvement to the art center, it would need to be done as part of that. That's part of adopting development standards is as people make improvements to the homes, they're required to implement those standards. Another question on here is, are we planning to overhaul downtown in one go and help owners or as people update? As people update, we would require them to incorporate some features, maybe not as much as a new development. Additionally, the city council adopted a facade improvement program, which staff is currently looking to implement. But unless we have standards, there's really no point in implementing the program as of yet because the facades are not dictated by the code. So if someone came in to do a facade today, in 2-3 months when we adopt the standards, it could be a completely different facade that's required. What color schemes are we thinking downtown? That's part of the discussion in terms of what feel does the group as a whole want to consider as part of colors. We're very limited on dictating specific colors, but as Eric said, a palette or a multitude of similar colors would be permitted. Those are all the questions that I have on the queue as part of the presentation. People could still submit questions at home, but we're open to whatever questions either the planning commission or the city council has or any members of the public have. So
There was a question about the cafe lights. When are they going to go back on the trees?
I apologize, I missed that. Cafe lights, are those the ones that need to be repaired, I believe?
Those were the ones that were wrapped around the
Yeah,
trees.
the ones they took, the ones that were linked to the.
Yeah, because we took down the trees, it's, we're gonna have to figure out a different way to implement lighting downtown. We are planning on replanting trees after the sidewalk projects are done, but the trees will not be mature enough for us to hang lights. I mean, we can wrap smaller lights around them, but that's something that will come back to council with a proposal on how to bring those back.
Because it's
So if
really
I-
dark downtown. It's
Yes.
really
Yeah,
dark.
it's so dark.
If I may, because with my subdivision, a lot of nights I work very late, just like yesterday and the day before. Right now, walking outside my office in downtown is pretty scary. So we need some updated lighting, even if it meant updating the light bulbs to the daylight light bulbs for the time being and adding some extra lightings until we figure out how to add. I mean, the previous lights that were there really helped make our sidewalk friendly to walk at night. And right now it's pretty scary.
Agreed.
Hey, Jerome, just one more question on the art center. Would they be able just to change that the front look?
Once standards are developed, that if there was a project or some proposal presented by the council or a recommendation to do so in accordance with the design standards and there was funding available, I don't see why not. I mean,
Well,
I'll let the city manager.
Sure, we have to remember it's a city facility, so if we wanted to change the look, it would be a decision by the council allocating resources and all of that. We can make it look however the city council wants, but again, as the deputy city manager mentioned, once those design standards are implemented, we would have to follow them.
Okay.
So, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So Jerome, I have a couple of questions. So as we speak in regards to where we're at right now, we're taking input and we're gonna be I guess, picking colors or having people, or we're gonna be talking about the colors. Do you foresee, or do you know when, we'll be wanting to implement those colors? That's number one. Number two, do we know what facades or what, where are we gonna get to a point where we can pick the facade and we can pick the awnings? If we're gonna pick awnings, or we're gonna just go with no awnings? I mean, I gotta commend my neighbor over here with everything that he's done across the street, but you know, I'd like to know what, if a business owner that owns a property already wants to start wanting to do some kind of implementation, what time frame are we looking at in regards to, you know, having a business know when they're gonna be able to pick a color, a palette, and pick, you know, do they tear down where are we at? What do you think? What's our expectation? Staff's goal is to take the input that's garnered today, get with the consultant and work to have something done within 60 days.
I have a question to follow up on that. Based on your polling tonight, as you noticed, the majority of this group prefers classic designs versus modern designs. Of course, you know, the flat roofs were not popular, the steel look was not popular, so it's more on a classic design, which fits more in a little town in our downtown. And obviously, for example, the art center currently, and I understand we did not have those standards before. Once they are adopted, if you do have a building that is completely out of line with what you're adopting, are you going to allocate funds and go back and say, whether it's privately owned or city owned, are you going to go back and say, either here's a grant for your facade, you need to make it, being confirmed with the rest of the atmosphere or the theme? Or would you, as a city, allocate funds, for example, for the art center to make it a little more fitting with the theme of downtown, whatever that theme ended up being, like whatever you're adopting in the end?
Thank you, Commissioner Corey. And that's certainly a discussion I think that needs to be had with the council in terms of, you know, whenever you change the zoning ordinance or any development standards, there are going to be some non-conforming, you know, uses and non-conforming designs. So it's up to us to decide how long we want to give those non-conforming designs to get up to speed. And like you mentioned, if we wanted to speed it up, we would have to allocate resources because not everyone's going to have their own resources to, you know, to conform. We do have the facade improvement program, which the city council could consider increasing the amount that's being loaned out for facade improvements or make it a grant as well. But those are all discussions I think that need to be had over the next few months.
And if I could add, I've seen amortization periods vary depending on location or type of use. I've seen existing uses have to implement maybe a portion because they've already made investment instead of an all at once, or it can be phased in over a period of time. But usually new constructions are usually the ones that have to comply from the
Right.
get-go, right? So it's really a balance in terms of, determining as a body, do we want downtown, as the city manager said, from the get-go? And then what resources are we going to allocate to do that? So that'll be part of the discussion. I think the design guidelines will be pulled out and the draft will be presented, and then we can mull over them before they're firmly implanted into the zoning code.
Thank you.
I have a comment. Last week I was in London, and going through London, you see anything from the modern glass skyscraper to the old, to the ancient. And however you feel about the appearance of the art center, I know a lot of people aren't a fan of it, but all that contrast itself brings a certain character to that city. And I know Parminder right here, he did some renovations to some buildings downtown. And those were each of those units next to each other, even though they're different in time frame and design, the fact that they're well kept up brings a character to it. So I think before we go and say, let's be uniform, maybe one thing, I think our downtown's great. I think once these trees were down, you just saw how unique it was. Some of the buildings do need some upkeep and tender loving care. But it's, the architect that we have downtown, some of it is very, very, I don't know, the term is classic or design, but it's very unique and it has character. And yes, we want to enhance it with features and facades, but at the same time, we don't want to just cover it up. You know, we be mindful of that. That's all.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that we giving downtown its own design standards. Because it is unique and we want to keep that uniqueness, and that's what makes downtowns attractive, is that they have these older buildings, they have a different character, they have a different feel, and that can attract people to those downtowns. So that's what we're trying to capture. That's what we want to capture in these design standards. So that's why we were showing you today. We started out with the downtown design standards and then went to commercial and other ones there, because we realized, yeah, you're not gonna have this uniform look throughout the city. You want your downtown as a different character, and then other parts of the city have different.
And we
styles.
shouldn't ignore that, the Golden State corridor projects coming through right through Whitson, a major thoroughfare. We don't want our downtown to be clashing with that. We want it to chime with that, not necessarily reflect it and copy it, but accent it and complement it, because that's a major design issue going through as well. So it'll be good to play on that and to riff off of that. And that's why I asked that question: could the Art Center be built today? Because will there be enough flexibility in this code for that individualism to come out once in a while? Something really cool at the same time to have those standards. I don't know. I don't know if you can have both.
Well, I think that's what
Better than
we're
a
talking
variance.
about, where you have the certain style that you want, that we could say, you need to have these three, let's say, 3 standards in your building. And then here's some other ones to choose from that you need to be in there. And then as well, if you want to do something different, then steps out of the by right use into, then you have to go for a design.
Yeah, like Hard
review.
Rock Cafe comes in, wants to do a restaurant in the shape of a guitar. That might be really cool, and that might work, and it might not.
The thing I would say also, you do see when you go to different communities, chain restaurants comply with design standards, right? You do see McDonald's has a standard. In the 80s, it was very colorful, brick, all those things, and they've gone to more of a modern look. But when you go to the mountain communities, they have to comply with the mountain design guidelines for more of a cabin or a rustic feel. So you can get different themes depending on the area, and people comply with what standards are provided.
And you can blend them.
Correct.
Got it. It's
And I
a
think
meeting of the
still,
minds.
That's the goal, is that it still allows people to have some individuality
Yeah.
with that, with these standards, so you need to have 3 different roof lines. Well, then, they're going to choose those 3 roof lines, not like we're dictating exactly what the building's going to look like.
Well, you also asked if we have in mind a certain downtown like feel or look. So if I may suggest downtown Pasadena, it's beautiful, well kept, they kept their historic facades, but it feels also so vibrant, well lit, nightlife, music, dining, and a great modern feel. Like young generation is there all the time, but they still kept their historic side and their uniqueness. So I would say, I'm not saying we are as wealthy as Pasadena, but that is one downtown they always use as an example because of it's impressive. If you go there in the evening, you'll see what I'm talking about. So it's pretty cool.
I went there after the Fresno State UCLA game.
Okay.
It's too hard to get a Uber, so we actually
Yeah.
walked to downtown.
Yeah. I mean, it is pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
And the variety of restaurants and shopping that you have in downtown Pasadena is awesome. So
Mhm.
something that one of those days.
Will these standards be passed by the bid? We've got members of the bid here. Is that something they'll be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll have some input. The business improvement district represents the business owners. A lot of them are not the property owners. And so a lot of these standards will actually apply to the owners of the buildings, which ultimately is going to affect the businesses themselves. But We're gonna definitely include the bid advisory board in determining some of these features that they'd like to see as part of their own businesses. Ultimately, the city council is gonna be the ones who are gonna decide what the standards are.
Great. Do we have any more input tonight?
Do you want to take any input from the public?
Do we have any input from folks who are still here?
I am Parminder Singh. I'm excited to see the changes that are taking place. Members of the council, all the work that's going on. It's very exciting. And Scott, I know, John, I've mentioned 3-4 years ago, probably we can feel the changes coming and it's good to see. And I actually had a restaurant owner from Fresno, Libby Lula. If you haven't heard of the place, voted twice best downtown restaurant in Fresno. Had them out, showed them a few places yesterday, you know, to look and scour a place for coming here. So exciting. And the one comment he made was something about parking. He said, wow, you have so much parking here. And we complained that we don't have enough parking. And you have free parking, he said, which was amazing too. And we need to keep it free.
Yeah. There used to be meters.
I'm sorry?
There used to be meters there.
Yeah, no, we
Remember
don't
those
need
days?
meters. No, it's very unfriendly for visitors. The next thing was the lighting. The music and lighting is very big, especially for that downtown vibe, the vibrancy, and especially we've discussed that a lot in the bid, and we would really like to promote that. And outdoor dining, pedestrian friendly, like you're talking about. I love Santa Barbara. That's why I painted the color of that building that way, that mission style, but it needs to be somewhat cohesive. So it blends, but there's variety between all the buildings as well. So that's what I wanted to mention. We need to keep it up. It's going well right now and people are taking note. We need to provide incentives like other towns have done, like facade grants. So I would encourage city council to really look into that, maximize the budget that you can to provide for business owners and businesses, because I think it will make a big difference. And you can see once the trees have been removed, how grungy some of the buildings are. They haven't been kept up because the leaves, the dirt builds up on the stucco. So maybe have building coverings that resist getting type of mold stuck on it, elastomeric paints, metals and things like that versus, you know, just the same old wood, which deteriorates over time. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will add, with regard to the bid, we're currently coordinating a visit to various downtowns for the bid members to get some ideas, which they'll bring back. We are encouraging them to look outside of the valley, like Pasadena and Santa Barbara. But a lot of them have also expressed how much they like some local cities downtown. So we'll have a good mix of different ideas from around the state.
Anybody else? Do we have anybody online or on the phone? Like to say anything? That will bring the matter back to council. Does council have any parting words or anybody from the planning commission before we adjourn the meeting? Did anybody have any future agenda items? I missed that the last meeting. Okay, we're good. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Eric.